You ready to go, son?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Hello, welcome to Hard Compound, the American take on Formula One. Race 19, Austin, Texas, U.S. Grand Prix. That was a good one. America showing F1 how it's done. With big stars, the big money, big hats, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders doing that AC/DC Thunderstruck thing. Good racing, too. F1, I love it. It used to try and chase American money. Now it's trying to chase American audiences. That's great. Texas delivered. But before I get your thoughts, Patrick, that was a long break. That was another one of those European vacations, 4 weeks. But while the Europeans took 4 weeks off again, there was a lot going on. And we had the updates to the 2026 regulations. Those are not all finalized, but that was interesting. They're getting rid of the fastest lap. So I'm not sure how I feel about that. Helmet was being helmet. Helmet at Red Bull and Zach Brown at McLaren. They seem to be getting into a little tit for tat over who can say the dumbest stuff in public. Helmet used to be the undisputed champion. Zach Brown, though, he's won that crown. So speaking of Helmet, Red Bull has said, yeah, Liam Lawson, he's in contention for the seat. Now, technically, everyone on the planet is in contention for Sergio Perez's seat, except for maybe Sergio Perez. But, that was a bit of a sign. And then Haas signs with Toyota, kind of with Toyota. I know it's a branch of Toyota. It's part of their racing branch. And it's just a sponsorship. But it's a bit more than a sponsorship. They said they're going to do a little help in the design and technical and expertise, take a little of the burden off of the underfunded Haas team. So that's a big one. Then finally, Texas delivered. We had a sprint, a race. Patrick's son, what are your thoughts, your feelings about the U.S. Grand Prix?
Look, I love what Europeans think about America. It's fucking hilarious. And I love it. I love the big hat shtick. I love the football shtick where they're like, wow, what is this crazy sport that Americans play and like? Football? Whoever got a football for Christmas? And I loved that it coincided with College Game Day in Austin, and we kind of had a meeting of the worlds. F1, college football, two massive audiences, kind of getting a little bit of a taste for both. I think it's good for F1. I think it's good for American audiences. I think it was a lot of fun to just have this weekend. And I think every year it becomes a bigger and bigger weekend. I think it's more and more meaningful in the States and for the sport. And I think that the drivers, the teams, and the sport as a whole are starting to embrace, at the very least, this race weekend in the United States more than ever before. COTA is one of the best tracks on the calendar. It delivered again. We heard it in the cool down room, whatever you want to call it. Max and Carlos talking about how good this track is. We had a sprint this weekend. Sprints are fun. That sprint gave us a whole slew of shootouts, which was great to see, fun racing going all out. And I like that later on in this season, we're getting some rookies that simply do not give a fuck who they're racing. They're saying, right, I want this seat. Give me a seat in F1. I belong. And they're going hard. And they're saying, you know what, Fernando, you're too old. Get out of here. And Look, we love Fernando, but I love to see Liam just going, nope, this is my seat.
Oh, yeah. This is my seat, my race. I intend to be a Red Bull next year. F this V-carb stuff. Yeah, I loved it too. And as much as the U.S. Grand Prix typically is a good race, and typically Austin puts on a great show, it was doubly good this year because as F1 tries to embrace American audiences, American TV, maybe the biggest college football game, coincidentally, was in Austin. Now, our European brethren simply cannot comprehend that universities have football teams, and those teams combined generate billions of dollars in revenue, that over 100,000 people show up every single game, and it is just massive. So they can't comprehend it. But ESPN is over the past few years has slowly incorporated more homegrown F1 content. They've tried to put people on it. They've tried to improve their coverage, even though most of it's still done by Sky Sports. And this was a great weekend. Like you said, they had the college game day folks there. They tried to do some tie-ins, some crossovers with college football and F1, at least here in the US. So that was fun to watch. Now, on the race, what did you think of that start?
I mean, look, we typically get a pretty fun run down into turn one. You're going uphill, full fuel loads, cars are heavy, drivers aren't super sure exactly where their braking zone is going to be. And you have the guy on pole, P2 in the driver's championship, trying to get everything out of his car. You've got the guy starting in second, P1 in the driver's standings, doing absolutely everything he can to make sure he is losing the fewest possible points he can each weekend. And then you've got third and fourth on the grid who are just chomping at the bit saying, you two fuck with each other. We're gonna take it from there. And lo and behold, the front two fuck with each other and the other two go through. I mean, what a crazy...
They fucked around and we found out. Yeah.
What a crazy start. Leclerc, unbelievable pace all day. Really good weekend from him overall. And just, he saw his opportunity and he took it and he didn't look back from there. I mean, what a fun start, fun race overall. And I think, what was it, lap 2, lap 3, Hamilton loses the rear and just goes off exactly where George went off. I mean, What a crazy start to the race.
Yeah, so Ferrari, I don't know if they brought any upgrades, but Red Bull, McLaren, just all these upgrades. The other teams as well. Ferrari, nothing. Boom, 1-2. We heard before the race, what's Max going to do in P2? Lando doesn't want to start in P1, not Dakota. Lando's had a few bad pole position starts. And then boom, like you said, those two mixed it up. Charles was like, thank you very much. And that was it. And he had, like you said, a great weekend, great race. He took advantage of his opportunities, and that was nice. And Ferrari did not screw up. It seemed like they were going to. Carlos Sainz was like, hey, man, I smell fuel. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. He's like, man, I smell a lot of fuel. I'm like, do not worry about it. He's like, the car is slowing down and I smell fuel. And they're like, trust me. And you never can trust Ferrari. But they got it right,
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job throughout the weekend. They had good strategy, and their pace really helped them. Seemed a little bit weird how much their competition was seemingly trying to save their tires and just sort of drive as cautiously as possible. I mean, Ferrari just said, we got this. We're good.
Right.
We'll just go for it, guys. We're fine. And it worked out perfectly for them, which rarely seems to happen.
Right. Around the same time, there was a big NASCAR race. And I don't like NASCAR, but there needs to be some sort of happy medium because I like the different tire compounds. I mean, hey, the podcast is called Hard Compound. I like the tire strategies. I like having to pit and how that affects race. Like an undercut, what's going to happen? We saw the undercut today. But yeah, I also sort of like, let's just take this car balls to the wall every second.
Well, I think that's what's so great about the sprint races, right? Because it's like, well, it's too short to pit. Like, there's no reason for that. So we're going to throw you out there on mediums and just go as fast as you can for the whole time. Just do it. And, Max was like, all right, I'm just going to go hard. And his tires lasted long enough. Well, he pulled out a big enough lead, and then his tires lasted long enough to, maintain that. The Ferraris were coming on strong at the end, but, in the actual race today, it just seemed like all the other teams were going, oh God, we got to preserve our tires. We don't know how long these are going to last. And Ferrari went, fuck it. You tell us. Plan A, B, C. We don't give a shit. You figure it
Right,
out.
right, right. I know. And speaking of tires, you mentioned Hamilton. Yeah, that was uncharacteristic.
Real weird.
You know,
Real
that
weird.
was. I was like, did something happen? Because it was just hard. It's just hard to believe, and especially Coda, where Lewis just is so damn good. It was like, oh yeah, the car got away from me. It's like, damn.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the same place where it happened to George Russell in qualifying. And, he was on the hard compound to start the race. It's a little bit mysterious that Hamilton can just have a lapse like that, a mistake like that. But, he had such a good start to the race, made up several positions, was running well. And obviously, that Mercedes was doing pretty well because we saw George end up in P6, something like that, P7. And he started from the pit lane. So that Mercedes had it in it to do something good today. And really strange to see Hamilton just drop it and, fly off into the gravel like that.
Yeah. And now, while we're slandering Hamilton, let's also take a look at George because George, I mean, he crashed out. It was in Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And Hamilton said, "Oh, I think Hamilton had offered him his upgrades or something like that." It was to try to sort of move this along so it wouldn't take too long to get the car repaired, which didn't matter. They took too long. He started pit, but I don't know. I think George has so much talent, but there's a greatness that I think is lacking there. It's you have to figure out how to push the car to its limits and not go over. And it just seems like he just goes over, which is just, ruins race, ruins points. In a cost cap era, that's just, doubly bad. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be a real interesting team next year, I think, right? Him and another rookie, Antonelli, coming in. We'll see kind of what that dynamic looks like. I'm sure, the young Kimi Antonelli is going to be doing his darndest to prove himself in that team. For a while, when Russell was brought over from Williams into the Mercedes team, it kind of felt like, oh, maybe there's a changing of the guard here. Maybe Lewis is on his way out and George is kind of the number one guy. Mercedes is going to start backing him. And as soon as you start thinking that, George does something dumb,
Yeah.
And I just still almost hasn't really gotten over that, it seems like. And this is what his third season in Mercedes, fourth season.
Yep.
I mean, he's got to break that kind of habit and make sure he's consistently performing. I mean, that's what makes Hamilton and Max, so great, and they've been so dominant in their sort of respective eras, if you will, is just their consistency every single week. It's like, yeah, I'm one or two.
Yeah. And like you said, Russell and Hamilton went out essentially the same spot. So, I'm sure there were issues with the car and setup, but nonetheless, it just seems to happen often to George. I mean, we were shocked that Lewis lost the car, but for George, like, oh, took a little too far, took too many chances, went past the limits. We crashed out. It's like, man, you cannot be doing that. So let's see. I am fairly convinced we all have the same top five for the U.S. Grand Prix, Patrick. But why don't you give me your top five?
Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't know. I'll give you mine. I got Leclerc, top of the top. I mean, good drive. Not much you need to say about his weekend. Just damn good. Third win of the season, by the way. Last year, we had 3 total winners of races. This year, we're up to 7 at this point, and maybe 4 or 5 multiple race winners. I mean, what a season. Anyways, back to the top 5. I have Verstappen second. He did exactly what he needed to do and more this weekend in order to kind of cement his place there atop the driver's standings. He didn't back down from any fights, won the sprint, controlled it from the start. He was, kind of back to his old self, a little feisty there, battling Lando. But I think that is what makes Max a champion. He gives no inches. And Lando tried to take some, and Max said, no, I'm not giving that to you.
All right.
Oh, I get a 5-second penalty, or you get a 5-second penalty. Whatever you want. But you're not taking this spot from me. Like, I'm not giving this spot to you. Just so good. He's so good at that. And that's why he's going to win the championship this year. Then I have Liam Lawson. I mean, coming in, first race, back in an RB, back in F1, I guess. Felt hard done by what happened to him last year. Probably should have had a seat to start this season. Didn't get it. Probably felt he should have gotten it sooner this season. Didn't get it.
Yep.
Finally, RB goes to him and says, we're in a bit of a tough spot. You know, everybody loved Daniel. Everybody hated us because we kind of fucked with him on his way out. So, here you go. Here's your seat. Oh, and by the way, we're kind of looking at Yuki for the Red Bull seat next year. So just have that in mind. Oh, and you're going to have to start from the back of the grid.
Right. It's like a 60 grid penalty or something like that.
And he goes and he battles throughout the sprint. You know, battles Alonso throughout that sprint. Does a great job. Then he comes in to the race, starting from the back of the grid. He battles his way up through the field. Good pit stop, good pace. Yuki's freaking out because how did Liam Lawson end up here ahead of me? What the hell's that about? Lawson ends up with points. Desperately needed points, by the way, for that team. I mean, he couldn't have asked for a better start back in F1. Really, really, you know, taking the horse by the reins and saying, I deserve to be in F1, so give me this seat. Then I got the other young guy, Colapinto. I mean,
yeah.
Logan Sargent never, ever beat Albon. Ever. Colapinto has done it like 2 or 3 times already. Like, what the
Right.
I mean, maybe that says more about Sargent than it does about Colapinto, but dude has been on fire. And quite frankly, I think everybody believes he actually might deserve a seat in F1 next year. And I think there might be 2 openings left at this point.
Well, we don't know still at Sauber Audi.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because Bottas, Mr. 23
That's right.
out
It's
of 23.
Hulkenberg is the only one currently signed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that's a possibility.
I think that RB seat is currently the only other one unsigned right now.
Yeah, and they don't want to do that. They don't want to take him because he didn't come up through their system, but Red Bull doesn't. But yeah, it's been 5 races now. I mean, he's head-to-head against Albon in qualifying and racing. I mean, I think he's ahead of him.
He might be, yeah.
Darn close, so yeah. And another good race.
And he was P10, right? He got points. So,
yeah, he got a point.
I mean, look at that from the young guys. And then lastly, we were slandering him earlier, but I got George Russell. He dropped all the way back to the back of the grid and came through the field, got a really solid race finish, was looking very racy near the end with Sergio. Just good hard racing from George. So solid outing from him.
Nice. So Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Liam Lawson, Franco Colapinto, George Russell. I don't know if I'd have that exact, but it would be close. Yeah.
I think Hulkenberg probably deserves to be up there too. I mean,
yeah, another Haas, good weekend, another good race.
Unreal how Haas is in 6th right now.
They're a point, I think.
Are they in 6th?
They're a point or 2. 2 points ahead of VCarb, ahead of Racing Bulls.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah. And P6. Yeah. I know. So speaking of points, Max is at 354, Lando 297, and Charles Leclerc at 275. There are still 5 races left, 2 sprints. Because I always forget that Qatar sprint, there's actually 2 sprints left in the last 5 races. So about 29 points on average can be had maximum per week.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Lando will need 11.4 points per weekend on average, an additional over Max. Charles will need 16 points. that's barring 2 Max crashes, he gets ill. Max is great, and that Red Bull is just so reliable. This seems insurmountable. Close, but insurmountable.
Yeah, I think after this weekend, Max kind of crushed Lando's dreams a little bit here. I don't think Leclerc was ever really aiming for that top spot, but I mean, what a weekend for him, and made up some good points. I think the crazier thing is that Max is going to win the Drivers' Championship, and Red Bull, I believe, will come third in the Constructors' Championship, which is kind of outrageous. But also, I looked this up because I wasn't quite sure if it was true. Max, he's going to do it twice, is the only driver since Lewis Hamilton in 2008 with McLaren to win the Drivers' Championship in a car that did not win the Constructors' Championship.
Wow.
I mean, I think that proves to you just how good Max Verstappen is.
Yeah.
Twice he's going to do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And last year was so dominant, and so we wondered if that would repeat Max and Red Bull. And early in the season, it was like, well, it's not as dominant, but it seems close. But then McLaren made a statement, Ferrari made a statement, but McLaren, I mean, for what, last 2-3 months so far this season have had the better car. And Lando has not closed the gap, or if he has, it has just been very little. I mean, like we said, five weekends left. He still needs more than 11 points over Max every week in the better car.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I think, though, if we vote on driver of the year, Charles Leclerc, he's closing in on this.
Yeah, I mean, he very easily could jump Lando if Lando keeps struggling, keeps having these weird performances. Hey, he's only 22 points behind Lando right now. It seems very reasonable to believe that Charles Leclerc could end up P2 in the driver's standings.
Yeah, and constructor, McLaren 544, Red Bull 504. And that 504 is damn near, all Max.
Who's that? That's 150. So Perez has 150 to Max's 354, right?
Yeah. And, it's like Aston Martin has 86. I don't have to look. I'm not going to look it up. That's damn near all, Alonso. Yeah, so McLaren 544, Red Bull 504. That's just 30 points, 5 races and 2 sprints. And then Ferrari right there, 496. So that's 48 points. Separates the top 3 constructors with 5 weekends left.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Well, we're looking at the standings. Hulkenberg has just been a man on fire just all season long. He's just been great. Haas is in P6 at 38. So much credit goes to Hulkenberg, but we also got to give credit, I think, to Ayo Komatsu, the team principal at Haas. Gunther was needed. Gunther Steiner was needed. He was funny. He was outrageous. He got in the media. He brought in sponsors. He basically birthed that team and kept it going with next to nothing. But it was time for him to go. And this guy, give him credit. He's signing deals. He's got the Toyota sponsorship coming on. They're 2 points ahead of Racing Bulls, more than double what Williams has.
Yeah, that is a very, I think, surprising result for Haas. Much needed in the development of that team. I think that probably, so far this season, has probably really helped kind of generate that interest in forming a deal sponsorship with Toyota GR. And I think that, having a real, actual sponsorship like that will really benefit the team. They've never really had that before with any kind of significant backing. So I'm kind of excited for what's to come from that team. Ideally, I'd like, Gene Haas to invest maybe a little bit more in the team, maybe increase domestic operations a little bit. But overall, this has been a really solid season from them. And, I think one of Gunther Steiner's last acts as a team principal there was bringing in Nico Hulkenberg, which has just been great. They've needed a really solid driver like him. And I'm just looking here. He's at 38 points for Haas total this season. Hulkenberg has 29, Magnussen 8, Behrman 1, right? So, I mean, really, Hulkenberg has been carrying that team. Great to see. He's got 5 more points than Lance Stroll, by the way.
That's funny. All right, switching to the soft compound. Now, you were talking about wanting Haas to have a bigger domestic U.S. presence, grow the team, spend more. We're talking up Texas, the U.S. Grand Prix, ESPN. I mean, the American influence on F1 is real, and F1's influence, its growing impact on American audience is real. It's great to see. I mean, the Haas team looks stable. Whether Gene Haas sells it or not, I don't know. The nearly insurmountable effort involved to get an actual American driver in F1, we'll have to put that aside because that still exists. But we see more and more American audiences, more and more American coverage. I saw that, and just rumors, but you know how the Andretti's partnering with Cadillac to get in there. I mean, now the rumors are Cadillac has made an offer to buy Renault's 2026 engine IP. They're getting out. They're no longer going to be making engines. And I mean, that's a big deal, I think. The Toyota, that's a big deal. And you can say, oh, it's Toyota. They used to be in F1. You know, they're thinking, oh, how do we get back in? But the fact is, Toyota is big in racing in the US, and they signed a deal with Haas. And I think they're seeing, hey, F1 is growing, but in particular, it's growing in America. I think this is what drove that. I mean, so we've got a Cadillac, we got Toyota. This is good stuff.
Yeah, it's all good. I think it's beneficial for American motorsport in general. You know, the growing influence of the US and American markets on F1 as a sport can really sort of help, I think, in what you were saying about American drivers getting into F1, right? If there's an easier path, right? If they go through the Indy route, right? Indy NXT and then into IndyCar Championship, you know, that can potentially lead to an F1 or Formula Series down the road for young American drivers. Even, you know, NASCAR drivers, it's a very different style of racing. You know, it's not an open wheeled motorsport, but still there's a lot of qualities in drivers that are similar. So, you know, if this market keeps kind of making an impact on Formula One, if more auto manufacturers that are big into American motorsport kind of are making these deals to be involved in Formula One, I can definitely see a path for, I guess, sort of a driver path to get into Formula One from some of these American series. So, I think it's not out of the question in the next few years to see some of those deals being signed.
Yeah. Well, I love the fact that F1 is growing in America, but also it's not just they're trying to grow the sport in America. America is having an impact and influence on the sport as well, which I love to see. And some of these things, like LVMH signed a massive sponsorship deal, branding deal with F1. That's not an American organization, but, you know, they sell Hennessy, watches, you know, and it's like Lewis Hamilton signing with Ferrari. It's like, hey, everyone's chasing the big new money because the future is nothing but big new money. Old money's not going anywhere. It's all the big new money. And that's America. I mean, somewhat Asia, but mostly America. That's what they're going to. So that's good to see. And we got Cadillac trying to get in, Andretti trying to get in, Haas doing well. Ford already in F1. I like it. Oh, maybe the best sponsorship deal of all, Hot Wheels. It's funny. I saw they signed with Hot Wheels sponsorship, and so Hot Wheels will make little cars. And man, that brought back the memories. When I was a little kid, me and Mark Sark, we would play with our Hot Wheels all day long, all day long. And he had money. I had no money, so he also got the Matchbox cars. Matchbox was like European. It seemed like to me that was like foreign. Those are. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get some Matchbox cars. Then we had or Hot Wheels F1 cars, so that's gonna be fun. Oh, and so it was just my old neighborhood in Detroit. It was just like me and the Mexican kids, and it's funny because for me, I had so little. The Hot Wheels cars and little orange Hot Wheels tracks were just it was just so high value. That meant so much to me. Meanwhile, next door, the Perez boys, the mom would come out, the portly mother would come out and just would be beating the crap out of them with the with the Hot Wheels tracks. And it's like, but it's like, 'cause I got switched, and like switch is harder, because that plastic would bend. It sounded worse, but it wasn't as bad. Plus, it was ruining good Hot Wheels tracks, so that just imprinted a memory on me. So anyway. Hot Wheels. I'm gonna get F1 Hot Wheels when they come out, Patrick. Completely other topic because I was watching some of the ESPN College Game Day stuff and they did the F1 tie-ins. I saw Mick Schumacher. Now, I don't want to overstate Mick Schumacher's abilities. He's not an F1 driver for a reason, but he's good. And I saw, is it Sauber that's considering signing him? And like, well, we're thinking about it. And a lot of them, because it's the Schumacher name and they're wanting to be nice and they're wanting to say all the right things in public and to the media. So they'll say Mick Schumacher. But I'm like, why not give Mick a chance? What are you going to sign Bottas? Like we just said, he's 23 out of 23. Bottas's one thing is he probably won't crash the car, which I get. In a spending cap year, that matters. But that's all you're getting. Don't you think? Consider Mick Schumacher?
I would consider it. I see no reason to not sign him. I do believe he crashed fairly frequently when he was with Haas, but so did everybody else that was driving the Haas at the same time. So I don't see any reason, right, for Bottas, Zhou, whoever, to be in F1. I mean, especially not Bottas, right? Zhou at least has some, Chinese money coming in, right? Like, he's got something going for him.
I don't know.
Bottas got a fucking mullet. That's it. And everybody goes,
right.
Bottas, he's so American. Like, shut the fuck up. No, he's not. He's as Finnish as Finnish can be.
He is. But he seems like an okay guy. But I'm like,
sure.
Look, his time is gone.
He's fine.
Time is gone. Please don't re-sign. Don't sign him. They'll get like a 2-year deal. Like, my goodness, there's so many drivers I'd rather see.
I want drivers who, if you're not, this is very American of me to say, but look, if you're not competing, then at least kill a motherfucker. Look, just do something. I don't know. It's all just like, oh yes, very polite. You go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I'm slow. Just go ahead. Like, no, crash into that motherfucker. Just ruin his day at the very least. What else? Like, Magnussen does that, He's like, I suck. This car sucks, but guess what? I'm taking you with me.
Exactly.
I'm like, exactly. I like that.
Magnussen has that. He doesn't just have Viking blood. Magnussen's first off the fucking boat Viking blood. New world. Let's just rush. Let's see what we got. Yeah, Bottas, like, look, man, you had one job for like 10 years. It seemed like you come in second, let Lewis win. You protect the car, and everybody's like, okay, that's his job. We know. But now it's like, what's your job? What is your job, Bottas? Just please sign Mick Schumacher. Do something. Colapinto, something. Please, not more Bottas. Ugh. Although that makes me, now that I'm thinking about Bottas back with Mercedes, man, just how much life did Christian Horner lose? I mean, that Mercedes, and I don't want to detract from Lewis's abilities, his greatness, or Bottas, but that Mercedes was unbeatable. Whoever was in that Mercedes was going to win. And it seemed like that went on for a decade. And I mean, just Red Bull did everything. It's like, how do we catch it? What do we got to do that's right, that's wrong, that's crazy, that's against the rules, that just gives us an edge, that hurts them? What do we got to do? I mean, it's that level of vengeance. I mean, it's just so admirable. I mean, because you just that is hard to keep that up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was at least 6 full years of Mercedes just complete and utter dominance, right?
Yeah.
And then another 1, 2 years of them being the best constructor. And then finally, Red Bull kind of took the reins for 2 seasons. I mean, just I think that does though speak to the level of what Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton built at Mercedes. I mean, just what a machine that team was for as long as they were. I mean, just crazy.
Oh, it's amazing. And I don't want to take anything, like I said, from Toto Wolff at Mercedes or Mercedes the team or Lewis Hamilton. But man, I admire that Christian Horner just like not sleeping for 10 years of just mad scientists. What can we do to help us to harm them? I mean, for all those years, that's just, like I said,
I think it's great because I think Max is a little bit like that. And I think that's what makes them such a good pair and why Max is going to win 4 championships in a row.
Yeah.
Is just like, he's like I said earlier, it's like, I'm not giving a goddamn inch. It's
Right.
not happening. We crash or you stay behind me. That is what's going to happen right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Fanaticism is just so undervalued in our society. And it's like, this is what we need. We need a society, not everybody, but let's say, we still need that 1% of just absolute fanatics, just absolute fanatical. And this is why I've always compared, people hate me for saying this, like Max Verstappen to Michael Jordan, because he's the only athlete. I guess Tom Brady's another one where it's just, I do not care. I do not care. It's like, look, I care about your feelings. I care about the world. I care about life. But secondarily to my fanatical mission, which is to win. That's it. I do not, it's not that I don't care about anything else. It's that everything else is secondary.
Yeah. Just good to see. I like it. I like it. I think it's fun. And I think that's what made a lot of this race fun to watch, especially near the end with Lando and Max battling. I mean, Max, great driver, obviously, and great defensive driver. And then, Lando, he knows what he needs to do. And I just think he did not have or does not have the same kind of attitude or mindset that Max does. He is not willing to take his opponent out of the race in order to get what he wants. Max, I think, is. I think we saw that when he won his first driver championship over Lewis Hamilton in 2021. How many times did they come together? And then this year, he's had a couple of clashes with Lando earlier on in the season, and I think Lando just got scared. A little cold feet. And he's not going for it as much anymore. He's going, oh, he pushed me wide. Oh, no, he went off the track. He should get a 5-second penalty. I'm like, crash into the motherfucker, okay? Or he crashes into you. Either way, like, you're either both not going to get points or you're going to get more points than he does. Like, yeah, Max has that mindset. I don't think Lando does.
Across the line, our segment where we predict the winners of the next race. In fact, we try to predict the top 5 in the next race. The next race is in Mexico. I've been doing stuff all weekend and did not research this, but I believe it was Max Lewis Charles last year, which could happen again this year. It seemed last year that we sort of thought, oh, Mercedes has finally turned the corner. And we'd been saying that for a few races in a row, and it was always untrue. And across the line, we try to predict the top 5 for the next race. If they do show up in the top 5, we get a point. If they show up in the exact right spot, we get 3 points. Patrick, what are the current standings across the line?
Okay, current standings after race number 19, United States Grand Prix. I gained 4 points to your 1 this weekend.
Ooh.
So current standings are 67 points for me to 50 points for you.
And 5 races left.
5 races left, 17 points. That is still doable, but it's hard. Right. I mean, it's not easy to gain 4+ points a weekend. I mean, we really got to make sure we get somebody in the right position. Right. So
yeah, that's going to be tough. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get 4+ on you every race, about 3 to 4. Okay, who goes first for Mexico Grand Prix?
I have first pick for next race. So, as I recall, last season, Perez crashed on lap 1 in his home race.
That's right. Oh, that's right. In Mexico, the home race. Oh, yeah.
So, I'm going to avoid that pick this year. I'm going to take... Look, I've been listening to Sade Smooth Operator all day. I'm going to take Carlos Sainz, P1.
Nice. I am going to go with a Red Bull 1-2, and I'm going with Sergio, number 1.
Holy cow. First win of the season at his home
win of the season
race.
In Mexico, then Max Verstappen.
Nice. Then I guess I'll take Lando, and then the other Ferrari driver, Charles Leclerc.
Ooh. All right. Since I'm doing the kind of make good tour, we're going to go with Lewis Hamilton at 3rd, George Russell at 4.
Ooh. And I'll take Oscar. So I'm going Ferrari, McLaren. And I'll round out my top 5 with, tough pick, I'll say Fernando.
Nice. I am going to go with Liam Lawson.
Ooh.
So I got Sergio, Max from Red Bull, Lewis and George from Mercedes, then Liam Lawson with the Racing Bulls. You got Carlos Sainz, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, and Oscar Piastri. So, Ferrari, McLaren, and then Alonso. Any crazy predictions, Patrick, for the next race or the remainder of the season?
I have some crazy predictions for Ferrari.
Ooh.
2 are good, 1 is bad. I've got Leclerc, P2 Drivers' Championship.
Ooh.
I've got Ferrari, P2 Constructors' Championship.
Ooh.
And I have Ferrari firing Lewis Hamilton by the summer break 2025.
No way.
They say, you know what, Lewis? Ferrari's not for you. You are not a Ferrari man.
Ooh.
And we will not take any of your crap.
That would be
diabolical.
Awesome. And it's not, yes, that would be awesome for its diabolicalness. I love it. It's because, and it's funny because you often hear, the F1 media, I mean, they can just be so, lame at times. It's repeatedly, Charles, what do you think about having Lewis Hamilton as your teammate? So Charles was like, oh, I'm going to learn so much. I love it. And, he's just a wonderful person and we'll learn so much. Then the team will get better and I'll get better. I'm like, you are lying. You are lying. I'm not even going to do a crazy prediction because those are, actually, I think Leclerc could get P2. I think Ferrari could get P2. But then Lewis Hamilton, I can't do any better than those. All right. I want to thank you all for listening to everybody's most beloved father and son F1 podcast. It is much appreciated. We are Lights Out.
See ya. Thanks for listening.
You just finished listening to Hard Compound, recorded in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and around the world.